all very much. Thank you all very much. Boy, that's a big crowd. I'm going to have to find out how you do this. Hey, we're here, of course, for the re-election and to also honor the service of Joni Ernst. But I hope it'd be all right for just a minute if I could speak about the policies of this administration. I'd like to say it's quite a pleasure, different from Republican and Democrat presidents before. Often, a president runs on a platform, but never stands on that platform. This president ran on a platform, and he's standing on that platform. And I think the outstanding thing this president has done, because after he has served 8 years, there's still going to be a legacy that we're all going to benefit from, and it has something to do with what was said when I was introduced the Supreme Court of the United States. This president, in the first in the presidency that I know about, and the campaigns of that person, he's told you the type of people he was going to put on the Supreme Court before he was ever elected. And you know, he's standing on that promise. He has appointed 2 people, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, from that list, and that's going to make a difference not only through these 8 years, but it's going to make a difference through the next 30 or 40 years as these people continue to serve. And what's significant about that is you heard in Jeff's prayer about our freedoms and liberties coming from God, not from the government. And along that line, he has appointed conservatives to the Supreme Court, people that are going to interpret the Constitution according to original intent, and laws of Congress as passed by Congress. They're not going to try to be super legislators, as some people on the Supreme Court tend to think their idea of what the law should be is different than what Congress meant it to be. And so taking an oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws of this country as a Supreme Court justice, it's pretty simple. Just keep your own personal views out of what the decision is. Now, of course, that isn't all that the president has done, because you seldom, Joni can testify to this, I'll bet the governor can testify to it, you hardly ever go to the White House unless the president asks, what about the farmers of Iowa? What about ethanol of Iowa? And so you may say that the roots of this president may be in Manhattan, but let me tell you, his heart is out here in the real world of America, not in that island surrounded by reality that we call Washington, D.C. So it's really is a real opportunity for us to serve you and to serve with a president who does not forget that Iowa is flyover country, and to realize this is where people that count. We're not described, we don't fit into that pattern that Hillary said we did, that somehow we're different people that aren't smart enough to know what America's all about. We do know what America's all about, and it's that freedom and liberty. Now we're here to honor my colleague from Iowa, Joni Ernst. We're here not just to honor her and thank her, we're here to see what we can do to keep this good person working for the people of Iowa and the United States Senate, as I have seen her. As I've seen her for the last 4 years work hard for the people of Iowa. She's got a lot of titles, but I know the one she's most proud of is being a mother, and now a mother of a cadet at West Point. I know that she's proud of carrying the colors of the United States Army and the National Guard around the world, and as a result of that, being the first female combat veteran, a member of the United States Senate. That's something we ought to honor. You know, honor her not for that service, but at the same time, a reminder of the people who are in uniform now, those we honored on Memorial Day, those veterans that we saw in France last week on the 75th anniversary of D-Day, to thank them for their service, and particularly those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for the defense of freedom and liberty. But now she carries the title of not only mother and combat veteran, but also a senator of the United States. And you folks have heard me say over 30 years previous to her being in the United States Senate that I had a pretty good working relationship with Senator Harkin, but we canceled each other's votes 90% of the time. But I don't want to detract from the fact that we did get along, but he was bitten by a different bug than I was. And so as a result of his vaccination, he voted one way, and as a result of my vaccination, I voted another way. When it came to Iowans, we worked very closely together. But get this, if you will, after 30 years, you can't really appreciate how much pleasure there is with serving with a person that doesn't cancel your vote. Not only has she served the 3 1/10 million people of Iowa well for the last 4 years, but she's also distinguished herself by rising through the ranks, and our caucus elected her vice chair of our Republican caucus. So every 3 or 4 times a week, she sits with 6 or 7 other Republican members of the United States Senate to strategize for how we can be successful serving the people of this country, but also constantly reminding the leadership of the United States Senate of what is of interest to Iowa. And of course, I have the pleasure of sitting at that same table now that I'm President Pro Tem of the United States Senate. And so, by the way, she had to get to her position by election by the caucus. The only requirement I had I had to be 85 years old. Okay. So let me remind you before I quit of some of the specific things that I see her doing from her position as vice chairman. I've already talked about that. Then constant voice for ethanol and a constant voice for people who are hurt by the natural disasters we have because of her service on the Environment Public Works Committee. I'm with her constantly because I've been a member of the Agriculture Committee as she is, so I see what she speaks up for the farmers of Iowa, not only through ethanol on agriculture, but also ethanol on that EPA Environment Public Works Committee, where they have all the jurisdiction over the alternative energies. And most importantly, since the number one responsibility of the federal government is the national security, the government to protect you from people that don't like America. She serves on the Armed Services Committee and is a voice not only there for strong national defense, but she's also a voice for the veterans, both on that committee and off that committee, to make sure that the promises we have made to those who sacrifice to protect our freedoms and liberties are treated the way they should be treated. And she's been an outstanding spokesperson for those people who haven't got that full treatment through the Veterans Administration. And then lastly, she's a new member of the Judiciary Committee, where I chaired for 4 years. I've been a member of that committee for 39 years now, and she is constantly there helping the rest of us and the President of the United States to put those strict constructionist conservatives not only on the Supreme Court, but also following through with 104 new judges in these 2 years. And remember, even more importantly than all 104, 41 of them are presidential appointees, being strict constructionists on the Circuit Court of Appeals, where about 99.5% of our cases end up for final determination because they never get to the Supreme Court of the United States. And thank you, I appreciate that that was, you were all supposed to be applauding at that point, and he was the only one smart enough to do it. But anyway, making sure 41, so 1/4 of all the judges on the Circuit Court of Appeals have been appointed by this president. So for whatever her station is in life as a mother or a senator or a soldier, or her more closely associated things now with the committee she's on, let me assure you that she puts Iowa first. And if you want to know that, I can tell you about a lot of conversations that I've heard at the White House along that line. Thank you all very much.